A deadly virus spread across the Earth in the 21st century, reducing the human population to fewer than 2 million people. Those who survived lost their ability to see. Now, centuries later, the very idea of being able to see has become nothing more than a myth. A woman named Magra Kane, who is in labor and screaming in pain. Hearing her cries, Paris comes to her aid, comforting her and encouraging her to stay calm. Magra then asks Paris about her husband, Baba Voss. Paris informs her that their tribe is about to be attacked, and Baba Voss has gone to protect the tribe from the attackers, whereas Baba Voss is instructing his companions to use their sense of smell to determine how close the attackers are. His companions reveal that a group of attackers is about to cross the river and will reach them soon. Baba Voss then asks his allies Matal about her predictions. Matal replies that the attackers are coming with the intent to kill them. Another one of his allies, Aurus, reveals that the attackers number 200 and are heavily armed. In response, Baba Voss shouts to rally his companions, declaring that Alkeni is their home, and together they will face the enemies. Baba Voss then blows a horn, signaling that they are ready for battle. Meanwhile, Paris is assisting Magra with her delivery. In the midst of her labor, Magra confronts Paris, sensing something is being hidden from her. She asks why their tribe is under attack. Paris then reveals to Magra that the Witchfinder General, their attacker tribe general, is coming specifically to find her. Meanwhile, Witchfinder General drags a man named Gether Bax from his horse and, while choking him, introduces himself as the general of the army. Gether explains that he was the one who sent the message leading them there. He then begins to tell Tamakti Jun about Magra. He recounts how, at the end of winter, Magra wandered into their village, a complete stranger to them. She claimed she had lost her way due to a snowstorm and asked their leader, Baba Voss, for refuge. Magra was 3 months pregnant at the time, so Baba Voss offered her shelter and eventually married her. Tamakti Jun demands more useful information. In response, Gether presents a necklace to the general, which belongs to Magra. Inscribed on the necklace is the name Gerlamarel. Gether explains that this necklace is a symbol of Gerlamarel's love and that Gerlamarel is the very man the general has been searching for all these years. Gether further informs the Witchfinder that Magra is about to give birth in a nearby village. Hearing this, the Witchfinder begins asking Gether about the village's defenses to plan an attack. Meanwhile, Magra gives birth to one child, but soon after, she experiences pain again. With Paris's help, delivers a second baby. Later, Witchfinder's soldiers scale the walls, closing in on Baba Voss and his companions. On Baba Voss's signal, his allies swing down on ropes and begin attacking the Witchfinder's soldiers. However, the Witchfinder's soldiers retaliate fiercely, killing some of Baba Voss's companions. Baba Voss himself joins the fight, swinging from the ropes to kill more of the attackers. The Witchfinder's soldiers start climbing up with iron ladders, and a fierce battle ensues between the Witchfinder's men and Baba Voss's forces. As the battle intensifies and Baba Voss senses they are losing, he orders his men to retreat slightly. He then cuts the ropes holding rocks in place, causing them to fall and crush many of the Witchfinder's soldiers. Baba Voss once again asks his companion Matal to predict what happens next. Matal responds, saying that she feels an eerie peace mixed with intense hatred. Another ally reports that while some soldiers remain at the riverbank, their numbers have decreased. Baba Voss orders his companions to return to the village. When Baba Voss and his group return to the village, he informs the villagers that half of Queen Sibeth Kane's army, including the Witchfinder, is stationed in the valley. The wall has been breached, leaving them trapped. Baba Voss urges them to prepare for battle before the storm passes. Now, Baba Voss goes to see Magra and tells her everything that has happened. In an emotional moment, Baba Voss and Magra share some heartfelt words. Paris realizes that there's no way to survive the battle, so she advises Baba Voss, Magra, and the villagers to leave the area. They decide to abandon the village and escape. Meanwhile, Witchfinder arrives at the village and finds it completely deserted. One of his soldiers informs him that he heard the cries of 2 newborn babies from the east. The witchfinder immediately sets out with his soldiers in that direction. The tribe, including Baba Voss and Magra, begins crossing a bridge over the river. Just as they are halfway across, Witchfinder arrives at the scene. He forces Gether, the man who had told him Magra's story, to move forward on the bridge as bait. Baba Voss and his tribe manage to cross the bridge, and Baba Voss goes to cut the ropes to destroy the bridge. Gether, still on the bridge, begs them to stop, and Baba Voss extends a hand to save him. After pulling him to safety, Baba Voss cuts the ropes, causing the bridge to collapse. Witchfinder, standing at the other end of the broken bridge, watches everything unfold. He then sends a message to Queen Sibeth Cain through a bird. Later, the queen is in a temple filled with people. She hands the message to one of her attendants to read aloud. The queen declares that the demon who killed her sister, Gerlamarel, is still alive, and now his 2 children have been born into the world. The queen orders one of her aides to send a message to the Witchfinder. His mission is no longer just to find Gerlamarel, but to locate his children and bring them to her. Back at the tribe, Magra begins telling them about Gerlamarel. She explains that Gerlamarel is a man who does not follow religion. Witchfinder is hunting him because Gerlamarel possesses a demonic power he can still see. He spread the idea that the weapons we've only heard about in stories weren't created by gods, but by humans. Gerlamarel claimed that if people followed his path, they too could regain the ability to see, just like him. The tribe then moves forward, searching for a place where they can settle and build a new home. Later, Baba Voss stood in an open field, holding his 2 newborn children. It is revealed that Baba Voss's children have the ability to see in a world where everyone is blind. Suddenly, a wild bear attacks them. Baba Voss fights to protect his children when, out of nowhere, an arrow hits the bear, killing it. Baba Voss immediately draws his weapon and demands to know who the person is. The man replies, "Your children are in good hands." Baba Voss instantly realizes that this man is none other than Gerlamarel. Baba Voss feels a wave of sadness, thinking that Gerlamarel has come to take his children away. However, Gerlamarel assures him that he is not there to take the children. He explains that he is a fugitive and still has many tasks to complete. Gerlamarel looks at his children and hands Baba Voss a box with a key, instructing him to inform Paris about it. Gerlamarel explains that the items inside the box are for his children. He instructs Baba Voss to only open the box when the children turn 12, as they will be mature enough to understand its contents by then. Curious, Baba Voss asks Gerlamarel what is inside the box. Gerlamarel reveals that the box contains a treasure of knowledge that will help the children shape a new world. Gerlamarel then tells his children, "One day, we will be together." Before leaving, Gerlamarel tells Baba Voss to name the children Kofun and Haniwa, adding that when they come to him, he will recognize them by these names. Baba Voss, puzzled, asks when the children will go to Gerlamarel. As Gerlamarel begins to walk away, he says, "The answer is inside the box." Baba Voss calls out to Gerlamarel, but he disappears into the night. Getherbax overhears Baba Voss in the forest and goes to his aunt, Suderbax, to relay everything he heard. Suder warns him that Baba Voss is the leader of the tribe, and if they try anything against him, it will not end well. However, Gether, filled with resentment, reminds Souter that Baba Voss and Paris had burned his mother and Souter's sister alive for questioning Baba Voss's leadership. He claims that they did this to hide their own weaknesses and swears he cannot forgive them, even if God does. Determined to seek revenge, Gether and Souter head into the forest to find Shadow, a mysterious figure who has always been the shadow of the Alkeni tribe. Souter explains that Shadow has the ability to become invisible among people, and no one can even sense her presence. Souter instructs Shadow to spy on Paris, as they suspect she might be a witch. Meanwhile, Baba Voss returns home with the box given to him by Gerlamarel. He and Magra open the box, finding a small paper boat and several books inside. When they ask Paris about the contents, she explains that these books contain the powerful knowledge of the ancients. Baba Voss tells them that Gerlamarel instructed him to give the books to the children when they turn 12. Paris warns Magra that the children may not remain with her in the future. Magra, worried, asks Paris to bury the box under a tree, ensuring that no one will find it, and promises to never mention it, even after 12 years. At this moment, Paris realizes that someone is eavesdropping on their conversation. It's Shadow. Paris subtly signals Baba Voss that they are being watched. Shadow later reports together, claiming that Paris is playing games with Baba Voss's children. Suitor doubts Shadow's honesty, but Gether insists that he will send a message to the Witchfinder about their location. He plans to send a message every day in a bottle down the river, hoping that one day it will reach the Witchfinder. Suitor warns him that the river flows through many valleys, and it could take years for the message to reach the Witchfinder. Gether, however, remains determined, saying that they must not lose hope. He kisses Suitor, showing his dedication to their plan. Gether puts the message in a bottle when Baba Voss arrives. Baba Voss, in a calm but menacing tone, questions Gether, stating that he hasn't been able to sleep at night, worried that someone might be spying on his family. He also notes the poor relationship between his family and Gether's aunt, Suitor. Baba Voss asks Gether if he knows anything about someone sneaking around, to which Gether denies having any knowledge. Baba Voss, now angry, grabs Gether's injured hand and squeezes it, painfully reminding him that he is the law here. He warns Gether that if he ever feels a whisper of deceit or spying again, Gether will see a side of him that he's long buried and it will terrify him. Baba Voss gives Gether one final warning. If anyone has something to say, they should come to him directly, or else, if he has to find them, they'll face dire consequences. With this, Baba Voss leaves. On the other side, Witchfinder is yet to discover anything about Baba Voss or Jerlamarel. Frustrated, he writes a message to Queen Sibeth Kane. On the other hand, the Queen, who listens as her aide reads the Witchfinder's message aloud. The message says that the Witchfinder is exhausted from searching for Jerlamarel and wishes to return. However, the Queen realizes that 2 of her own people have tampered with this message. In response, she calls for a public gathering and executes the 2 traitors by hanging them and then burning them using electricity. Now 3 years have passed. Magra invites Paris to her home and reveals that her children can see. Magra admits she has known about this for a long time, but has kept it hidden from everyone. At that moment, Baba Voss enters and confesses that he too has known the truth for some time. Paris then comments that Jerlamarel's predictions are coming true, and these children are the beginning of a new world. Magra asserts, "They are only my children." She continues, saying they will never let this truth come to light. Baba Voss reminds them that Jerlamarel asked them to wait for 12 years. He insists that they will wait and not tell anyone, whereas Witchfinder wandered from village to village, continuing his search. Meanwhile, the children are growing up. The time soon arrives when the children are about to turn 12. Paris and Magra get talking. Paris asks how long they will keep the truth from the children. Magra replies that she and Baba Voss have agreed that what has been buried will stay buried. Magra doesn't want to lose her children, so she refuses to let them read the books. Later during the night, Paris secretly tells the children the truth about their real father, Jerlamarel. She hands them the books to read. Kofun refuses to read and walks away, but Paris gives Haniwa Jerlamarel's message and the book. Haniwa later goes to Kofun, where she reads Jerlamarel's message. Unbeknownst to them, Baba Voss overhears their conversation from outside the room. Baba Voss confronts Paris, who reminds him that Jerlamarel saved his and the children's lives. In return, Jerlamarel only asked that the children be allowed to read the books so they could learn about the world. Baba Voss replies that if Magra finds out, she will burn the books. Paris urges Baba Voss to keep quiet, saying that one day the children will have to leave and the books will be their guide. Haniwa and Kofun read the books. Meanwhile, somewhere in a village, a young girl finds the message Getherbacks sent in a bottle. Whereas Tamakti Jun and Witchfinder return to Queen Kane and apologize for failing to find Jerlamarel. The Queen tells him that he is not a good Witchfinder. Tamakti Jun responds by saying that since he has disappointed her, he is willing to accept any punishment and wishes to take his own life so that he may die like a warrior. The queen grants him permission to end his life. On the other hand, Haniwa is holding a bow and arrow she made herself. The peak of a mountain, she aims her arrow at a group of people and tells her brother that if she kills even one of them, the others will believe that the gods have taken revenge on them. This shows the high level of superstition among the tribe members. While Kofun and Haniwa are talking, they hear the sound of a horn. They return to the village to find out that a baby died in the womb before birth. Getherbacks and Suitorbacks blame Magra for the baby's death. An elderly woman from the village explains that it is not Magra's fault. When so few people live together, reproductive issues like this can occur. Therefore, the tribe needs to form relationships with outsiders. Without new people, the tribe will only produce monsters. Baba Voss responds by saying that the rule against going outside was made to keep them safe. He then leaves, forbidding everyone from going outside. The elderly woman approaches Baba Voss and tries to convince him. She tells him that if he does not reconsider, it will not be long before the tribe starts leaving this place. Magra also tries to convince Baba Voss, who then agrees to the elderly woman's advice, whereas Queen Cain is seen waiting for Tamakti Jun to die. Meanwhile, one of her men brings her a bottle containing a message that Getherbacks had sent down the river, which was later found by a girl. Tamakti Jun is about to end his life when Queen Cain arrives and orders him to stop. Baba Voss, along with Magra and the villagers, prepares to leave the village. Later, we see Kofun and Haniwa following them. As night falls, they arrive at a place where people are being bought and sold. Haniwa sees people tied to wooden posts, and a man standing before them declares that they are being punished for having the power of light. He then burns them alive. Haniwa tries to scream and stop him, but Kofun silences her. Kofun, terrified by the scene, decides to leave, but Haniwa stays behind to observe. The people around the fire begin to circle it and then start to engage with each other. While Kofun is sitting alone, Slaver's men came and took him away. Haniwa searches for Kofun and, not finding him, goes to her father, Baba Voss. Baba Voss, Magra, Paris, and Haniwa set out to find Kofun. On their way, they notice smoke and find a stone with a message written on it. Haniwa tells Baba Voss that Kofun wrote the message. Magra asks Haniwa how she knew it was Kofun's message. Haniwa explains that Kofun wrote it on a stone, which she read. Paris and Haniwa then inform Magra about the books. Magra, crying, becomes angry with Haniwa. Slaver's men take Kofun and the other children, bound with ropes, to the slavers' hideout. Baba Voss, arriving at a riverbank, asks Magra, Paris, and Haniwa to stay behind while he goes ahead alone. He shares his past with them, saying that he knows this place because his father was also a slaver, and he himself spent some time as a slaver. He was taught how to inflict pain on people, but buried that part of himself years ago. Now it seems he must revive that part of himself. Haniwa insists on going with Baba Voss, but he refuses, saying he doesn't want her to see that side of him. Baba Voss then advances and reaches the place where Kofun and the others are held captive. He begins to kill the slavers' men one by one in a terrifying display. The slaver calls him a great Baba Voss, and a fierce battle ensues between them. In the end, Baba Voss drives his sword into the slaver's neck. One of the slaver's men tries to escape, but Haniwa arrives and shoots him with an arrow. Baba Voss returns with Kofun and Haniwa to Magra and Paris. Upon seeing Kofun, Magra embraces him, but she remains upset and keeps her distance, not speaking to him. They all return to their village, where Magra goes inside the house, followed by Kofun. Kofun apologizes to Magra, telling her that the books never indicated he should distance himself from her. Haniwa then tells Magra that it was because of the book that she was able to defeat a bad man. Magra becomes emotional and hugs them both. She tells them that she will now reveal the truth about their father. Magra also asks Baba Voss to bring Paris. Baba Voss steps outside to call Paris, but soon learns that Tamakti Jun has arrived in the valley with his men. Baba Voss signals his companion with gestures. Getherbacks incites the villagers, urging them to capture Magra and her children so that they can be sold to the Witchfinder, ensuring their own safety. Kofun holds a knife to Getherbacks' throat and demands that he and his family leave the area. Baba Voss, with his family, starts to evacuate. Matal and Arka also decide to join him, and Shadow's mother sends Shadow along with them. On the road, Getherbacks tells Kofun to let him go, claiming he's of no use. Haniwa urges Kofun to kill Getherbacks. However, Kofun tells Getherbacks that he is not a demon and would have killed him if he were. Kofun then punches Getherbacks and leaves with Haniwa. Getherbacks runs back to the villagers. Witchfinder, upon reaching the village, inquires about Jerlamarel's children, Kofun and Haniwa. An elderly woman tells him that all the witches have fled and that he will find nothing here. Enraged, Witchfinder kills her. Getherbacks arrives and leads Witchfinder to the riverbank. Baba Voss arrives at the riverbank with his family and starts boarding them onto a boat he prepared. Getherbacks leads Witchfinder to the riverbank, where Witchfinder's men surround Baba Voss and his family. Witchfinder's men begin to attack, with Baba Voss killing one of them. They then attack Arka, whom Baba Voss manages to save, but Arka is killed while trying to protect Magra. Another of Witchfinder's men attacks Magra, but she kills him. Haniwa shoots an arrow at Getherbacks, but Witchfinder, being blind, does not realize this. Witchfinder asks Getherbacks if they can pursue Baba Voss and his family across the river. Getherbacks tells him that the water becomes very deep ahead, making it impossible to catch them. After hearing this, Witchfinder kills Getherbacks and orders his men to go to the village and kill all the villagers. He also sends a message to Queen Cain via one of his men, informing her that Baba Voss and his family have escaped. Upon learning this, Lord Dune advises Queen Cain to recall Witchfinder. However, the queen refuses and decides to send another troop of soldiers to Witchfinder. Everyone opposes the queen's decision. Lord Dune tells the queen that they have lost much due to this war and that she is only pursuing it for a man who left her. The queen, upset, leaves the room. Meanwhile, Paris delivers a message from Jerlamarel to Kofun and Haniwa. The message outlines that they can follow the river to reach the Great Lavender Road, and from there, proceed to the House of One, where they will establish a new kingdom together. Magra advises against following Jerlamarel's instructions. Instead, she proposes abandoning the river and moving deep into the forest to establish a new world. To decide which path to take, they hold a vote. Magra and Baba Voss favor moving into the forest, while Kofun, Haniwa, and Paris support following Jerlamarel's route. Shadow is asked for her opinion, and to calm the argument between Baba Voss and Haniwa, she votes for following Jerlamarel's path. Meanwhile, Lord Dune and Lady Z plot to kill Queen Cain. The queen's maid overhears their plan and informs the queen. Queen Cain then confronts Lord Dune and Lady Z. They attempt to kill her, but she kills them first. Meanwhile, as everyone rests on the boat, Magra asks Haniwa how she plans to establish a new kingdom. Haniwa explains that she will recreate a world similar to what existed before, using the knowledge from the books. Magra expresses concern about her own place in the new world, feeling that she will be left out since she is blind. Haniwa assures her that Magra will be the queen of the new kingdom. Magra then retrieves a small pouch from her pocket and holds it close to her chest. The next morning, they discover that someone has stolen their belongings and Magra's pouch. Magra asks Baba Voss to find the pouch, as it contains the last memento of her father. Kofun spots a figure in the distance and identifies the thief. Meanwhile, in the palace, a decision is made to arrest Queen Cain for the murder of Lord Dune and Lady Z. Upon learning of this, Queen Cain shuts the Kinzua Dam, causing it to collapse. To escape the imminent danger, Queen Cain flees with her dog and a maid. Meanwhile, Paris and Magra are waiting for Baba Voss, Haniwa, and Kofun. Baba Voss, Haniwa, and Kofun are searching for the thief who stole their belongings. Kofun hears someone humming, and the trio follows the sound. They arrive at the location, where Baba Voss explains that these are Upayal people who work at night and sleep during the day. They suspect these people might have stolen their things. Haniwa locates the thief and finds her mother's pouch. As she opens it, She realizes someone is watching her. Just then, Baba Voss and Kofun hear Haniwa's scream and rush to her. They find her unconscious on the ground. As they are tending to Haniwa, a boy attacks Baba Voss. Kofun intervenes, saving Baba Voss from the attack. Baba Voss is about to kill the boy, but Haniwa wakes up and asks him to let the boy go. She also requests Baba Voss to touch the mark on the boy's chest, which matches the symbol from Gerlamarel's letter. After touching the mark, Baba Voss releases the boy, who is also revealed to have the ability to see like Haniwa and Kofun, whereas Queen Kane, resting at a temporary stop, plans to move forward when her maid is killed by attackers. They capture Queen Kane and take her away. Meanwhile, Baba Voss, Haniwa, and Kofun return to find Haniwa giving her mother the pouch. Paris discovers that there is someone else in their group. Haniwa identifies the stranger as Boots, the one who stole their belongings because he didn't know about them. Haniwa explains that Boots is Gerlamarel's son. Upayal people had enslaved him when Gerlamarel passed through, but they abandoned him when they fled upon hearing about Tamakti Jun's arrival. Haniwa argues to keep Boots with them. Boots agrees to follow their instructions, revealing his lack of experience with humans. Magra allows him to stay in the group. Magra asks Baba Voss to open her father's last memento, a small pouch. As Baba Voss touches the pouch, he tells Magra that everything is happening for this reason, and that her father must have loved her deeply. Magra reflects on how her father was a good man who would have liked Baba Voss if he were alive today. They also discuss Kofun and Haniwa. Baba Voss expresses concern about losing them, especially since Haniwa is eager to meet her new father. Magra reassures him that they won't lose their children, whereas Queen Kane is taken to the city of insects, where she is presented to their master. The master talks about the virtues of silk made from silkworms, prompting Queen Kane to yell that it's the biggest mistake of their lives. The master then puts a thick rope around Queen Kane's neck and hangs her, warning her not to speak. He later lowers her and tells her that she will have to learn and work like everyone else, and any attempt to escape will be her responsibility. On the other hand, Baba Voss arrives at the boat, where Kofun informs him that their boat is stuck due to a lack of water. Tamakti Jun and his army arrive, prompting Baba Voss to order everyone to flee into the forest. Baba Voss instructs Haniwa to hide Magra and Paris inside a tree trunk. He and Boots engage in a fight with Tamakti Jun's men, while Kofun also battles the soldiers. Paris realizes Magra is missing and calls out to Baba Voss. Haniwa and Baba Voss come to her aid. Paris tells Baba Voss that Magra had let go of her hand and left. Haniwa, distressed over not finding her mother, screams out for her mother. Meanwhile, Magra approaches Tamakti Jun, calling out his name. Hearing Magra's voice, Tamakti Jun dismounts and approaches her with a sword. As he is about to strike, Magra raises her hand and jingles the rings she is wearing. Tamakti Jun recognizes the sound, kneels, and bows his head before Magra. It is revealed that Magra is actually Magra Kane, the sister of Queen Sibith Kane. Following Tamakti Jun's command, his army bows their heads in respect before Magra, whereas Baba Voss was killing Tamakti Jun's men one by one. After defeating them, Boots approaches Baba Voss and claims that he saw Tamakti Jun kill Magra. Boots hands him Magra's pouch as proof. Haniwa, however, expresses her disbelief in Boots's words, insisting they should stay and search for their mother. But Baba Voss stops her and decides to follow Boots's suggested path. Meanwhile, Tamakti Jun confronts Magra, saying that he believed she was dead. Magra responds, saying that she won't tell you anything until she is certain that he won't harm her family. Tamakti Jun reveals that Queen Kane ordered him to kill Magra. Magra retorts that she can give him an order as well, to which Tamakti Jun replies that she is not a queen. Magra then taunts him on this being his fault. Magra then demands him to order his army to bring her family to her without harming them, and then she will answer all the questions. Tamakti Jun complies, summoning his army and ordering them to capture Magra's family alive. On the other side, Boots betrays Baba Voss, Paris, Haniwa, and Kofun by locking them in a cage. Baba Voss and Haniwa shout at him, but Boots leaves them trapped. Inside the cage, Kofun angrily blames Haniwa for trusting Boots. Soon after, the cage begins to lower into a dark cave. Haniwa uses Gerla Morel's letter as a torch, burning it to light their way. Meanwhile, we see Queen Kane working like a slave in the city of insects. After a short break, she speaks to a man, but the city's leader catches her and severely beats her for disobedience. Queen Kane talks back, and the leader strikes her so hard that she passes out. Back with Magra, she reminisces about her past while talking with Tamakti Jun. She recalls her father's final moments before his death when he told her she would soon become queen. However, after his death, her sister Kane took control of the throne. From their conversation, it's revealed that when Magra tried to dethrone her sister and claim the crown, many people supported her. But without Tamakti Jun's support, she failed to become queen. Tamakti Jun questions her about why her sister spread the rumor that Gerlamarel had killed her. Magra explains that when she failed to become queen, she left the kingdom. Afterwards, Kane deliberately spreads lies, telling everyone that she had been killed by Gerlamarel. After answering all of Tamakti Jun's questions, Magra asks him that once he finds her family and children, will he let them go? Without replying, Tamakti Jun leaves the scene. Back at the cave, a lady signals her men to knock Baba Voss and his family unconscious. After some time, they wake up, and Baba Voss assures his children that everything will be fine, as if they wanted to kill them. They would have done it by now. Meanwhile, Queen Kane is being dragged to the slave master. There, the master cuts open her chest and pulls out a royal seal, realizing that she belongs to the Payan kingdom. Back in the cave, Baba Voss questions the lady, who introduces herself as Delia. She explains that she isn't keeping them captive, but wants to help them. Delia tells Baba Voss that this cave was built to keep outsiders from reaching this place. She mentions that she has survived 5 winters and 5 summers here. Delia reveals that Boots is her son. She shares the hardships of Boots's life and how people saw his ability to see the world as a curse. He endured their torment until he couldn't anymore and began killing those who wronged him. Delia then tells Baba Voss that when they leave this place, they should kill him. Haniwa agrees, prepared to eliminate Boots. Delia then frees Baba Voss and his family from the cage and leads them to a lift. Baba Voss, Paris, Haniwa, and Kofun get on the lift, and Baba Voss starts pulling them upward using a handle. Just then, some attackers following Baba Voss arrive and attack him. During the struggle, Baba Voss loses grip on the lift handle, causing the lift to stop. Baba Voss manages to kill the attackers one by one and grabs the handle again, raising the lift. At the top, Paris, Haniwa, and Kofun get off the lift. Together, Haniwa and Kofun begin lowering the lift back down for Baba Voss. But suddenly, the rope snaps, and the lift plummets to the ground. Baba Voss starts climbing the rocks, struggling to reach the top. After a difficult climb, Haniwa and Kofun help him reach the surface. Meanwhile, Tamakti Jun brings Boots to Magra. Upon seeing Boots, Magra embraces him. When Magra asks about her family, Boots explains that he got separated from them while fighting the army. Later, Tamakti Jun receives a message from the city of insects. Enclosed is the royal seal taken from Queen Kane's body. The slave master demands a great deal of wealth in exchange for Queen Kane. Tamakti Jun hands the seal to Magra, asking her to recognize it. As Magra touches the seal, Boots tells her that he knows the people who sent this message. He can help them find them, but in exchange, he wanted to be a lieutenant. Tamakti Jun brutally killed one of the 2 messengers who had brought the message from the city of insects. He captures the second messenger, a young girl, tying her up and torturing her to extract information about Queen Kane's whereabouts. Meanwhile, Magra sits with Boots. Tamakti Jun arrives and informs Magra that he has located Queen Kane, and they will soon set out to find her. Tamakti Jun also brings up Boots in conversation, stating that he knows that Boots is not her son, and he can see. He is convinced that Boots is Gerlamarel's son. Magra simply nods in agreement without saying a word. A disagreement arises between Tamakti Jun and Magra about searching for Baba Voss and the children. Just then, Boots stands up, seemingly ready to attack Tamakti Jun. But Tamakti Jun warns him that just because he can see doesn't mean he can kill him. Now, Tamakti Jun, Magra, Boots, and some soldiers set out to rescue Queen Kane. On the other side, Baba Voss, Paris, Haniwa, and Kofun are traveling together. Baba Voss and Kofun are still upset with Haniwa for trusting Boots without thinking, which got them into such a dangerous situation. Baba Voss asks Kofun how far they are from their destination, and Kofun informs him that they are quite close to Queen Kane, who is in a pitiful state in the city of insects. When she is served food, she throws it away in defiance, only to be beaten mercilessly. The slave master taunts her about how Gerlamarel once loved her and then betrayed her, leaving her behind. Queen Kane defiantly rings the bells on her hand, only to be beaten again. Back with Baba Voss and his family, they are seen traveling down the Lavender Road. After walking for some time, they sit down to rest. Here, Kofun apologizes to Haniwa for all the harsh things he said to her in the cage. Kofun and Haniwa share a conversation about their family and Gerlamarel. Haniwa expresses her eagerness to meet her real father, while Kofun says he loves Baba Voss as his father and doesn't want to be separated from him. They spend the night at the same spot. The next morning, they resume their journey along the Lavender Road. As they continue, they are hit by the stench of human corpses. Moving forward, they see bodies hanging as a warning to those who dare to proceed. Baba Voss tells his family that they can't go back now. Meanwhile, Tamakti Jun, Magra, Boots, and their soldiers reach the outskirts of the city of insects. Boots sneaks closer to the palace and returns to report to Tamakti Jun about the guards stationed there. Tamakti Jun, after leaving Magra, Boots, and his soldiers outside, enters the palace alone. He stealthily eliminates all the guards one by one and finally kills the slave master as well. He then approaches Queen Kane and assures her safety. Magra applies medicine to Queen Kane's wounds. While tending to her, Magra becomes emotional and begins to leave. However, Queen Kane grabs her hand, saying that she can't leave until she tells her the whole truth. Queen Kane then confesses all her dark deeds from the beginning to the end. Tamakti Jun listens to her revelations, and it becomes clear to him that Queen Kane was the one who destroyed the dam, which led to the destruction of their village and the deaths of its people. Queen Kane tries to justify her actions, telling them to inform the soldiers that the destruction was caused by divine wrath. Furious, Tamakti Jun angrily says that those soldiers outside have been waiting for 20 years to reunite with their families after the war, and she has taken their families away from them. Queen Kane remains firm, stating that she did what she thought was right to ensure the survival of the Payan dynasty. Tamakti Jun, outraged, responds that if those soldiers got to know that she destroyed their families to preserve her dynasty, they wouldn't follow any of his orders. Later, Tamakti Jun goes to Magra and expresses his regret in crowning her queen. Meanwhile, Baba Voss, along with his family, senses danger up ahead as they continue on their journey. Sensing a trap, Baba Voss picks up a rock, throws it ahead, and a barrage of arrows rain down on the spot. Kofun points out a hidden attacker, and Baba Voss takes him down with his shovel. Afterwards, Shadow attempts to retrieve the fallen weapon, but as she returns, an arrow drops from her hand, triggering another wave of arrows. Haniwa rushes to save her. The attackers then reveal that only Haniwa and Kofun are allowed to proceed down the path. Haniwa encourages Kofun to continue forward. Baba Voss, realizing the gravity of the moment, shares an emotional farewell, saying that there comes a moment when every child must walk their own path. From the day they were born, he has protected them. That's what every father does. But there comes a time when children must walk forward on their own. Seeing Baba Voss get emotional, Kofun pulls Haniwa forward, insisting that this can't be true. Baba Voss says that he may be blind, but he can see them both. But now, it's time for them to meet their real father. Kofun, overwhelmed with emotion, embraces Baba Voss. Haniwa, too, is visibly emotional. Baba Voss then pulls an arrow from Shadow's leg, hoists her onto his shoulders, and prepares to leave. As he departs, he tells Haniwa and Kofun to always remember their mother Magra and always look after each other. Paris bids them farewell as well and follows Baba Vos. Haniwa and Kofun, holding hands, continue down the path. As they walk further, a series of bright lights suddenly illuminate their way. Gerla Morel introduces himself to Haniwa and Kofun, embracing them warmly. He then introduces them to all his other children, and they all sit down to share a meal together. After dinner, Gerla Morel shows Haniwa and Kofun their rooms, but the siblings, deep in conversation, decide to sleep in the same room. Meanwhile, Tamakti Jun is seen forcefully separating Queen Kane's loyal servant, Cora, from the queen and pushing her into a tent. He assigns Boots to keep an eye on her. Tamakti Jun then approaches Magra and says that he remembers the day Magra warned him for siding with Queen Kane. His army has lost their families because of her. When they learn the truth, there's bound to be a rebellion or worse. One of them may rise and lead the soldiers against them. He continues that, if they want to prevent this, Queen Kane must either step down from the throne and make Magra the queen, or they must ensure Queen Kane can't leave this place. Magra listens and replies that Queen Kane will never give up her throne. Tamakti Jun acknowledges this, saying that she might be able to convince her. Meanwhile, Cora, using her cunning, manipulates Boots and wins him over to her side. Magra writes a letter and hands it to Queen Kane, but the queen dismisses her. She was amazed that Magra even thought that she would give up the throne for her. Queen Kane doubts that it's not about saving her life, but about fulfilling her desires. She says to Magra that she can take the knife and kill her if she wants to be the queen. Magra pushes her away and walks out, saying that it's up to her on how she writes her fate. Meanwhile, Gerla Morel shows Haniwa and Kofun the library and other parts of the settlement after they wake up. At one point, Kofun questions Gerla Morel that he didn't miss them. Gerla Morel dodges the question, responding vaguely. Even when he hears the news of Magra's death, Gerla Morel shows little reaction, which bothers Kofun. Kofun later expresses his frustration about Gerla Morel's indifference to Haniwa, but she tries to calm him, saying that he is hurt by his mother's death, he's just not showing it. Gerla Morel also shows them the area where electricity is being generated. His eldest son is present there too. Later, after Gerla Morel leaves, Kofun has a conversation with Gerla Morel's eldest son, who arrogantly claims that they are a superior breed compared to the blind. The blinds live their lives like animals. Kofun, remembering his brave father, lashed out at him, saying he would regret his thinking if he ever met his father. Paris and Baba Vos seek help from a tribal leader to treat Shadow. However, out of fear of the witch-finders, the leader agrees to help only if they leave Shadow behind. With Shadow in desperate need of treatment, Baba Vos and Paris bid her farewell and leave. Later, Kofun was unable to sleep and stepped out of his room at night. He notices a shadowy figure and follows it, only to discover Gerla Morel and Colonel, an officer of Edo Vos, in conversation. Kofun overhears that the Colonel has come to take Baba Vos's children. Gerla Morel is heard promising to hand over Haniwa to the Colonel while keeping Kofun for himself. As Edo Vos's soldiers surround Gerla Morel, he warns them that his children can see and they will overpower his soldiers. At this moment, Gerla Morel's eldest son sneaks up behind Kofun and knocks him out. Meanwhile, Haniwa wakes up and is looking in the mirror when Gerla Morel's eldest son grabs her from behind and drags her away. Whereas Paris, who wakes from a dream and tells Baba Vos that something is terribly wrong with Haniwa and Kofun, they are in danger. Kofun wakes up, only to find himself locked in a room. On the other hand, Haniwa has been knocked unconscious and handed over to the Colonel. Elsewhere, Tamakti Jun arrives to meet Queen Kane. She gives him Magra's message to read. As Tamakti Jun is distracted reading the message by touch, Boots takes advantage and stabs him with a knife. Queen Kane then pushes the blade deeper into Tamakti Jun, ultimately betraying him and putting him to death. When Magra learns about Tamakti Jun's death, she becomes terrified. Queen Kane, seeing her fear, reassures her, saying Tamakti Jun ended his life following old traditions, and he remained loyal till the end. Queen Kane then tells Magra that they will go to the soldiers and tell them exactly what she says. Meanwhile, Jirlamaral confronts Kofun. He explains that if he hadn't given Haniwa to the colonel, his entire family would have been killed, something he was not willing to risk. Jirlamaral also reveals that one day, with the colonel's help, they will take down Queen Kane. To achieve this goal, they have to make some sacrifices. When Jirlamaral tries to embrace Kofun, calling him son, Kofun responds by headbutting him, causing Jirlamaral to bleed. Enraged, Jirlamaral orders one of his men to take Kofun outside and shoot him. However, just as they are about to execute Kofun, Baba Voss arrives and kills Jirlamaral's men, rescuing his son. Baba Voss then goes inside with Kofun, and together they begin eliminating Jirlamaral's men one by one. After the fight, Kofun signals to Baba Voss that he will go down and shut off the generator, plunging the place into darkness, making it easier for Baba Voss to kill Jirlamaral. As Baba Voss heads toward Jirlamaral, he calls out to him, finding him in the library. He taunts Jirlamaral, saying his world has no air, no trees, where no one can even breathe properly. The stench of decay is everywhere. His knowledge and his world are nothing but a facade, and he is just a madman. Jirlamaral blamed him, saying that it's because of him Edo Voss took his daughter. Baba Voss, enraged, swings his weapon wildly. Jirlamaral sneaks up and attacks Baba Voss, causing him to drop his weapon. Jirlamaral then begins striking him. At that moment, Jirlamaral fires a gun at Baba Voss, who narrowly dodges the bullets. Meanwhile, Kofun reaches the generator and shuts it off, cutting the lights. In the darkness, Baba Voss says, "Welcome to my world." A fierce fight breaks out between Baba Voss and Jirlamaral. As they battle, Jirlamaral's eldest son tries to kill Baba Voss with a machine gun, but Kofun comes from behind and kills him. Meanwhile, Baba Voss gouges out Jirlamaral's eyes with his fingers, finally defeating him. Elsewhere, Queen Kane addresses her soldiers, announcing Tamakti Jun's death. She tells them that he was a great warrior, and having failed in his duties, he took his own life following the ancient traditions. Now they must honor him. Whereas Baba Voss brings Kofun back to Paris, and the three of them continue their journey together. Meanwhile, Tamakti Jun's body is shown burning in the house where they had been staying. Queen Kane, along with her soldiers, and Magra leaves the area. At a hilltop, Baba Voss, Paris, and Kofun stand. Baba Voss asks Paris if Haniwa is nearby. Paris confirms, saying yes. And here, Season 1 of this series comes to an end. This is Buff Recap. Stay safe and enjoy your day.